4 710 preamps with a compressor.
Compressor, right?
And I'm hitting it pretty hard to like get it to distort more, and it's compressing as well. And on the first track that I did, it was compressing a lot and distorting quite a bit. And then on the second one, I just dialed that back so that it was compressing a more modest amount, probably something around 3 to 6 dB, and it wasn't really distorting as much. And I'll use that for the cleaner parts because the cleaner parts were sort of like fizzing out in the distorted one in a way that I don't think was very flattering to the part. But in the heavy sections, it sounded awesome. It would be like this.
How heavy is it?
It's like that much distortion compared to the original was. Right. Just sort of like punches it down a little bit more, makes it sound a little bit more exciting. And John had a really positive reaction to it, so that's good enough for me.
So is it good?
Yeah. Okay, and then what I did is, now that I have these two, I went and this is the cleaner of the two printed ones, and then I switched to the more distorted one. And I switched back to the cleaner of the two, and then to the more distorted one.
One thing that Matt's done there is he's color-coded anything that we print from Outboard, that turquoise color. That's our little sign. A lot of people will color code like, oh, all the drums are this color, all the basses are this color, all that. It just gets too many colors. Our stuff is either it's original audio or it's processed audio. You know? And with a little bit of exceptions.
Yeah,
but for the most part.
Let's just adjust. This one line I think had a little bit to do with the guitars before.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll see this one.
Why'd you go and make it so?
Yeah, it's better.
Why'd you go and make it so?
Alright, so now we're going to do the same with the vocal, because we're having a really good time. I'll run the vocal through the same sort of thing over here, and it'll be, it's distorting a little bit, and it's compressing more.
We were just kids.
And the amount of compression that I'm doing here on these last few things is not necessarily like appropriate use of compression, like just subtly closing down the dynamic range. I'm sort of just having some fun with it. And it's a little bit of a chain reaction where, because I did that to the drums, and I like really pumped them up, and I'm using a decent amount of the parallel. And then I sort of did this to the guitars as well. Sort of then just makes sense to do it to the vocal. It's sort of like once you start, it's a little bit easy to keep going.
Parallel?
No, so the reason why I'm not doing parallel is just because we were having those issues before.
Oh, okay.
And it sounds cool enough, like just right on it.
Okay.
Hard for me to hold the love that you show.
So,
We were just
I'm not sure if you guys can hear, but
kids
there's a
making
bit of
it
distortion
too
on there.
hard.
Some would define it as
It's even
saturation,
hard for
which
me
is
to
like
listen to you
the like
wanting.
pinky up
You know I
distortion.
wanna walk away and let the phone ring.
And there's some
Holding
compression
paper cups
on the
and
fast
pieces
setting,
of
which means it's presumably a quick attack and a quick release. If I was to switch to the slow,
You sure?
I was to switch to the slow
hard for
here.
me to hold the love that you show.
Matt, you want to do it?
We were just
Oh, no, I'll be all right, thank you.
kids making it too hard.
If you guys hear,
Hard for me to hold the love that you show.
that's the
We were
slow.
just kids.
This is the fast.
Hard for me to hold the love that you show.
I'm not sure if you guys can hear this, but it does pull out more of the room. Like the slow, when it compresses, it's basically turning down the volume, right? And then I'm turning it up over here. But when it's on the slow, it turns it down and just sort of like leaves it there for a little bit, and it slowly comes out. If it's on fast, it's going down and trying to like come back up as quickly as possible, and it may come back up before she sings again. And when it's coming back up, all it's doing is bring up the volume of everything else, so it brings in some of the room.
Hard for me to
I generally
hold the love that
like
you
that.
show.
So I'm gonna probably
We
go
were
with that.
just kids.
And if I take this off now,
Hard for me to hold the love that you
Sounds like that.
show. We were just kids.
turn it on.
Hard for me to hold the love that you
Now it's a
show.
bit more like
We
forward.
were
It was obviously
just
slightly louder,
kids
but it
making
does have this
too
like slightly more
hard.
forward feeling to it. A
Hard for me to hold the love that you
bit more exciting
show.
too, I think.
Hard for me to hold the love that you show. We were just
And about right now, I would start considering which ambient effects we're going to do, like delays and reverbs. And I know Brian wants to show you guys the way that we do the amp reverbs, so I'll sort of save that. I may do a delay, but then he would just probably tell me to take it off.
hard for me to hold the love that you
I wanted to
show.
know if we could listen to just the comps at the end.
Yeah.
I might want to change one
Totally.
of the comps.
Do you just want to do it right now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If
What
we
is
have
the?
a second.
What's the which phrase?
Just the last part was like It sounds like I run out of breath there.
Okay.
I like that one the best so far.
All right. Then we got one more. Here.
Okay. I like the second to last one.
The second to last one. Cool.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, my purse is over there. Hey, Spencer.
Did I get more in the way? Alright.
I just thought I should go.
And I need to quickly go through and do a housekeeping thing, which is when you comp the vocals, use these different tracks, and if you don't fade them, sometimes there can be clicks and pops. And you don't realize that until you've sent it to mastering.
I'll sit out here. No, I'm serious. I had my turn. Go ahead.
Any questions so far? Does the EQ process make sense? The subtractive EQ process that we sort of went through?
So what, I'm sorry, I missed what you said you were doing right now for housekeeping.
Yeah, so right now, when you comp the vocal, you're just picking between, this was 5 different takes, I think. If you just drag those files on top of each other, and you don't fade them, just inherent in the way that, like, digital audio works, there will be, like, a loud click or pop that happens when, like, 2 things bump up against each other, so you just crossfade them.
Oh, okay.
It's just, like, a thing that some people don't worry about, but the only times that I've tried to be cool like that and not worry about it, I send it to mastering and I immediately hear it afterwards. So.
What's the standard that you're doing, or is it a preset in Pro Tools?
I just sort of make a shape. There's no real standard.
All right.
I used to listen to it as I did this, but at this point, generally speaking, I can tell by the picture what it's gonna sound like. Like, I can see breaths and things like that, and I can make sure that I avoid making something sound like she goes like, or it's like 3 different takes of a breath.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't want that in your mix?
Yeah, it's funny. I was listening to a St. Vincent record the other day, and I heard a vocal comp. Or I heard her breath go.
You immediately look up who it was and
Oh, I know who it was.
DM him. And
Yeah. It's actually great because it's my favorite producer and engineer, and it humanized him a little bit.
Nice.
Oh, John Congleton?
Uh-huh.
Matt just calls him Con.
Congleton. Oh, okay. Got it.
Amongst the crew, he's
on
known as
it.
Congleton.
He's on a last name basis.
Yeah, apparently.
Well, it's
you
like
probably had the best podcast interview I've ever heard.
Which one?
Way back in the day, it was years ago, he did one with Matt Boudreau, Working
Uh-huh.
Class Audio. And just his mentality and approach to life is just, it was really inspiring.
Yeah.
That's great.
He's so cool.
Who is it?
His name's John Congleton.
The interview.
Oh,
Matt Boudreau.
Working Class Audio. It's a podcast.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this guy Matt, he interviews random audio people, just people that tend to be in the trenches. They're maybe not like superstars, like Chris Lord-Alge or something like that or whatever, but he's just interviewing.
I did an interview with him once.
Yeah, that's right.
He was a nice guy.
Dude.
Really nice guy.
It's all coming back to me. I think that's how I first kind of found out about you guys
Oh, really?
and stuff. I think it was actually that, yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, he's,
Really
your
good
interview
guy.
was great. That's right.
He's a really good guy.
Mm-hmm. He's doing a lot of cool, like, stuff, I just think, like,
Yeah.
the world's just better with him doing that.
Yeah, it was good. It was interesting. Like all of my conversations with him was, he was like, he saw himself as sort of unwillingly getting sort of sucked into this rat race of like having achieved a certain level of professionality as a producer, engineer, whatever, and then but not like getting like pulled underwater by the times and by all these things. And he was like, then I started learning how to lead the conversation, and my life completely changed.
Yeah.
Instead of it being about what I'm doing as a producer, it was like, leading the conversation with other people, for other people's benefit.
Yeah.
I like leading.
That's a really cool point, yeah. His story's crazy with his studio, too. How he had this, world-class console
So this
studio.
one Brian EQ'd yesterday.
Oh, you can change that if you.
But sort of generally makes sense.
I hope that you know that I would never take back the nights of our youth in the gravel of the train track. I suppose I was chasing a dream with a rope in my hand, tied to somebody else's plan. How many flies on my windowsill have collected?
So I'm going to employ a de-esser here. For anyone that doesn't know what a de-esser is, it's a specialized compressor that its side chain is very specifically fed by a certain frequency range, and S's, like literally S's, microphones are really bad at recording them. They come across as like these strange spikes, and when you start compressing things, doing all that, it just brings out how like intense and like
Makes it worse.
assaulting that frequency range is. I can even just show you here on the analyzer. If you watch up here, you'll see an S whenever she starts, or a ch. See how it like jumps up a ton?
My least favorite thing about our converters in our studio is I think it actually makes those frequencies worse. If I could undo one thing I ever did, which was buy and have an HDX converter, that would go back and I'd go back in time, I'd erase that.
Why do they boost that frequency range?
Because it tricks, I'm going to be cynical but say, the same reason that microphones are so bright these days is that everyday humans hear them and go, oh, that's better.
Yeah.
And they're wrong.
It's
They're
like,
wrong.
yeah.
They're just
And they're
wrong.
just compounding problems for us later.
Do you notice a difference when you just mix in headphones? Like just in Pro Tools? Like you don't hear it quite as bad?
No, because it's how it was recorded in. That's the
Oh,
problem.
got it, yeah.
So I usually use two de-essers, and one is sort of down around 2K, and I'm sort of using a de-esser wrong. I'm using it as like a resonance control. Specifically in a vocal, sometimes like 2 to 5K, there's something that like sticks out, and this will just like sort of help me pull that down. This is for the nerds, this is effectively a dynamic EQ right now. And then I'll have like an actual more standard de-esser that'll be trying to catch anything above 5, 6K.
Are you, what are you hearing what are we hearing right now?
Just the side chain of the de-esser. That's the audio. And then it's going through the UA.
Does it go into the UA first before it hits the DSR?
No, I use the de-esser before the compressor. I'm trying to head off the compressor, like exploding these S's,
Gotcha,
T's,
yeah.
and ch's.
Gotcha,
Yeah.
taking them off first before it starts squashing everything up. Cool.
Okay, so this is good. I'm probably gonna print this now. Still a little bit of low mid going on here.
Yeah, it's like a proximity on that mic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in this case, I'm also employing a shelf, which just I define a frequency range and I say everything below this cut by this defined amount. Because opposed to a filter where I'm saying, starting at this point, in increments of 6, 12, or 18 decibels, every octave you'll get that much more.
Gotcha.
This one I'm just saying, like, literally everything past here gets turned down 3 dB.
Like a shelf.
Yeah.
What's the advantage to that instead of just rounding it off? If you don't want to get rid of it?
There's
It's
a few-
progressive.
I can get,
Okay.
it can get pretty technical from this point forward. I
Okay.
can start talking about phase and all kinds of shit, but
Okay.
just in general, like, I need this to go kind of high, like even maybe up to 500 hertz.
Okay.
If I tried to use a filter, it would just sound so thin.
Gotcha.
Whereas I just want to say, like, filters are good for if you're thinking, like, I generally need less low end. Shelf. If you're saying, like, I don't want any of this stuff, like, super low,
Yeah.
filter.
Okay.
Right, so,
And filters are a really sort of overly simplistic like application is what we start with when we do that high pass or low pass filter.
Yeah.
What we tell ourselves is, you know, say we record an acoustic guitar. If you were to listen to everything below 80 hertz, it's not going to be the instrument itself. You're going to be hearing the trucks driving outside.
Oh, gotcha.
So you're filtering out what's not the instrument.
Gotcha.
And or you know, like that's one practical application of a filter versus what Matt's talking about with the shelf. Is like, well, that's the instrument,
Right.
but I just have too much low end, so I'm just gonna bring that all down
Gotcha.
equally.
Okay, that makes sense.
And you can do both. You can have a filter for the trucks driving outside, but a shelf for the instrument itself.
Perfect. Okay. Very cool.
while I do this, do we want to set up for the amp reverbs?
So, do we have a way to? I'm just realizing. Do we have a way to reamp to send?
He has that interface.
Well, I have a couple.
You do.
You can pick whatever you want.
Yeah. Let's. Should we just need one, right? We'll go
Yeah.
one out there. Yeah. And can we use your pedals? You don't have a stereo tremolo, do you? No. That is just a.
You
The delay.
failed us.
You have the delay, right?
The delay is stereo.
Oh, the delay is stereo. Oh, that's good. Can you grab that?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's anything that I haven't.
And you've already added the distortion to her voice?
Because it's in the same, it's all in one processor.
Okay.
Yeah.
What might be good would be for us to bring up a good reference mix, and then you sort of just quick go back and forth, like to see if we're in a ballpark, or
Right.
show how we would
Cool.
put in a ballpark. But that's the one thing we don't really know, like what this room really sounds like, and the only way we can tell is by opening up something we really like and know really well, and be like, ah, that's what this room sounds like.
Is there anything that we have seemingly skimmed over that anyone wants elaboration on? It's
What's like the decibel level of the master right now?
Right now, I haven't necessarily been keeping track of it because I'm about to get to the stage where I'll look at it, but my aim is peaks at -6 decibels full scale, so on a meter. Yeah.
Do you want 2 amps or just the one?
Are
Two.
we going to be able to do 2?
Yeah, because
two.
we have the AC 15
And the
and the Princeton.
Did you do anything
So
to?
you bring that to Matt, and I'll...
Did you do anything to all the drums, or just like?
Yeah,
individual?
all the drums, I have a parallel chain going that's on like a separate track, and I like slammed it with compression. And so all that means is that I have like all the drums that are filtered down, that are like funneled down into a stereo track, and then I have a duplicate of that. And on the duplicate of that, I like destroyed it with compression,
Okay.
and I can blend that in.
Okay.
So that my drum sound doesn't have to be that insane sound.
Kind of like the
I
ring
can
mic.
just I can just sort of like decide. I have my original, and then I can blend in the craziness.
Do you have it automating at all? Like
Nope.
bring it out here. It's just
No,
at
it's
a level.
just sort of where it's at. If I had like a full day, I may get into like automating some stuff, but I'm sort of just. It's a relatively simple arrangement and recording, so I think I can get by without it.
What about with her vocal? Like instead of shelving, certain
Mhm.
frequencies, would you dynamic compress anything
Sometimes
like that?
I'll multiband compress things, which is I would just say like the low mid range, like it's pumping up, and I'll just have it so that just the low mids, when they become excessive, they're sort of turned down.
Would you run that before or after a de-esser because it's gonna like cause harmonics? Presumably.
With a de-esser, it's more flexible. Yeah, I could do before or after.
Do you always run 2 de-essers?
Generally, yeah.
Plug that in back there?
Yeah, plug that.
Usually one is like
Up top or down here?
just like I
down
was
right
saying, sort of like a
behind
dynamic
the
EQ where I'm just taking 2K,
Oh, there's one
which is
bit
my
behind me.
like least favorite frequency ever. And yeah, generally speaking, it's the crossover point between your tweeter and your woofer, and so there's like really weird shit that happens there, and so it's just terrible.
So you always use a de-esser for every vocal? Or
Uh,
just when you feel like you need it?
most of them.
Okay.
Most times you need it.
Gotcha.
Even when you have we have like really sick microphones, and you
You
still
get a ribbon
need it.
microphone that you would think like, I'm not gonna need that.
You still need it. Yeah.
You know what, Matt? I pray we experience the day where we can get rid of our converters and we can just see if.
Until I'm
see if
gonna
that's
keep
the
pressing
thing.
forward. Yeah.
No, I mean we have to, of course, but
Yeah.
but you know, there were times when we used to use de-essers, but now we have to. You have to, like
Yeah.
all the time. And I can't think that. I mean, either we just didn't know back then and now we know, like he picked up on the need for de-essing, or we do know these converters are always boosting that damn range. So, you know, the converters we used to have were the Lynx Auroras, and the converters we got like about 3 or 4 years ago were the Avid HDX converters. And if I could like walk back any one decision, I might even try to figure out how I can buy the old used ones that I sold, because they're technologically, they go back about 8 years, but they sounded so much nicer.
What made you decide to fix it?
Just, we were upgrading, we needed to upgrade our system because like Avid had like a buyback system that we had timed out of. It was like, we had had our system for 8 years and they're like, after this, there's no buyback offers on these older, your system. And so what I should have done was just bought the Avid cards. But instead I was like, well, while I'm at it, the guy's gonna, my friend George Hajiwana, who I was talking about earlier before you got here, could give me a deal on the whole thing. And you know, I thought, oh, converters, I mean, they're kind of all the same, probably. Or these new ones have to at least be better than these old ones that we had. Nothing could be further from the truth.
What causes in S's? I feel like it's mainly related to compression, but like when your S's and T's start getting flat, you know what I'm saying? And it's like
Distortion. That's distortion. That's compression and distortion. Distorting the original signal. Or it's the mic itself distorting. And that's what sibilance is distorting S's and T's. You know?
And they do have an SSL style thing here.
Cool. Yep.
So I'm gonna throw this on the 2 bus, right? What's coming back in off the console is 2 channels, which is effectively like our final deliverable. And I'll put this compressor on here, which is purpose built for this. It's ubiquitous. A lot of people use these SSL compressors.
Is it a G style?
Yeah. But I'll just sort of like use a slower attack and a fast release and chop off like 1 or 2 dB. And it just sort of finalizes things, makes them work together a little bit more.
Show the process of how we kind of work out the timing with the extreme setter.
And that's the
Oh, right.
So stick that in whatever
So,
output.
a good way to start learning compression, if you want to start dealing with like attack and release times, is to use way too much. You basically
audition it.
Slam the compressor, right?
Yeah, after whenever you get
So, as you can see, this meter is going pretty wild.
Down in the live room.
If you
don't have 2 of the reamp boxes.
Set it to
No,
the
we're just gonna
slowest,
just use one, and we're just gonna use
fastest, right?
Kobe's pedals.
So where you can like feel it doing all these like
I don't need
jumpy
anything more. We
things.
only need one.
Clearly that is probably not
Pedal
what you
has
want.
1 amp.
Yeah. No, 2 amps. But his pedal has 2 outputs.
So
Perfect. Okay, sweet. You figured up here or down there?
slowing down the attack lets the track start to come through.
Yeah.
The attack or the release is still really slow.
Cables that'll reach, I guess, from here to there.
Because you
Part
were
of my
mentioning up
reason for
here.
using this is like a little bit of extra excitement, and that I just know that that's quicker release times. So I'll start making this release time quicker, and you'll start to feel it like get bigger, and it like starts to come out a little bit more. So what you can do is you can find this range where you sort of time it to the tempo of the song, like it opening up and closing to the tempo of the song.
We're sending 17
So use the most like extreme
setting.
tempo threshold setting.
So this is the knob I'm dealing with right now. We're on the second fastest. And if I go to the fastest, then I go back to the second fastest. That one feels a little bit more in time to me. I'll go back and forth and see if you guys can. This is the fastest.
It also kind of like ducks out before you're worried about it. Like,
Yeah, just the second fastest. How now it feels like the drums are sort of playing with it. And so what I would do then is, since that's way too much compression, just pull it back until I just start to hear it helping out.
So you work out the timing in the extreme, then you dial back the threshold so that it's
And it's not something you get on your first try.
no. You have to sort of
keep
botch
trying
it.
And for example, when I first started using this style of compressor, because I knew that everyone else used it, I used really fast attacks and like medium releases, just because it like sounds sort of cool. Like you really hear compression.
right.
And then I started realizing I would hear my mixes and think that they had just like no transient material. Like everything sounded soft, like soft and pillowy. And then I started realizing, well, what if I like open that up a little bit more, the attack, and that lets the transient through. But then I still felt like it was like this like brick where the level would be turned down with the compressor, but it wouldn't come back quick enough. So I just flattened everything out. And then I started realizing, well, what if I speed up the release a little bit more, and that sort of let it breathe. And then I reached this point where I realized that, honestly, with this compressor, there are a few settings that work most of the time. Like I sort of arrived at a slower attack and a quicker release. For most like rock music, that'll work.
Sorry. Is this like this obviously looks like a proprietary compressor? Is there like
It's the SSL style compressor.
Yeah.
what does that mean?
So,
SSL is the console maker, like the gear maker,
Okay.
and they had a 2-bus compressor, so a compressor in the console for the left and right output of the console. It was actually just a bus compressor for any left and right output, and that's it right there. And you can buy it as an outboard piece of gear, or you can buy the plugins galore.
And there's a lot of manufacturers that make that style.
Yeah, a lot.
And
it's a really simple build, so they can be really good sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah.
John Lowe, our old engineer, had
Also,
a knockoff of one.
Dre had like
He had a knockoff of one,
This is on, like,
and
probably every
it was
single
better
album.
than any one I ever heard.
This compressor.
It was just really,
I
really
put it
nice.
on like the master.
So,
That's like the sound.
So the master channel you're putting.
the other interesting thing to point out is that
Yeah.
what Matt
Yeah.
what Matt said about his mixes would be they would feel like soft and no transients.
There's a sort of
We were the meters were still running at most like that.
most vocals.
So so that tiny little bit of meter activity was creating mixes that were like
Yeah, we're
transient.
compressing this a fair amount.
So the weird
I
thing
compressed
about
5
that we've
dB
also
on
kind of realized about
and then
bus compressors in general
5,
is like
7
if they have a VU meter
Do you listen to trap?
It should be barely moving. Again, you get your settings when you're like, you're trying to get it to like slam and to be bad. And then you dial it back to something that you just visually will say, okay, that's probably enough.
Sure, I don't
You
know.
know,
It's grunt on you though.
because even that tiny little amount,
I can't explain.
you'll hear people say like, oh, bus compressor, you would never hit more than like 3 dB. 3 dB is like
a commercial
neutralizing.
I've
It's like
2 ideas.
as like
One is
phasers on stun.
those very
You know.
style.
So-
It's like a
Physical limitation is the length of a cable.
Can we just put the amps closer?
Like 10 or 12
We can either, we can put them in this airlock,
like shelf
or if
back
someone's up here,
You'll start- I think
we
you'll
could
start to
have
hear what
the
you're talking
pedals
about. The other
out of a
thing would be
reamp box
lots of
coming from the floor,
compression.
like have his pedals right there, and then left right him out to the with normal
Oh.
cables. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like in the room, do it, and he like
Vocals the most important
presses
part of the
record
song.
and stuff.
Okay.
You
And you
wanna
have the
make sure it's
headphones
Okay.
on.
Yeah, whatever you
You
want to
wanna
do.
do that
Yeah, sure.
Some people's idea of that is, well, I'll just make it so it's never quiet.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, everything doesn't always
We're gonna do that.
You know, those 2 factors are like the defining features of those vocals. So I would say if you're experimenting,
Getting rid of
So this-
see if, like, have a track ready that you want to compare to, and pull yours up, and then start messing with the high end of the
Is
voice.
that changing then at that
Any
point? Are
amount
you
of
still
pressure.
looking
And go wacky with it. Just see if, like, extreme settings get you close. Maybe they'll get you further
No, I
away.
think the shelving is a little bit of a different consideration. Shelving is more.
Whatever your source is, whatever output or outputs you're using
Yeah.
to feed out there.
Just the overall balance,
This
yeah.
setup.
It's the overall balance,
So
and
there you go.
it comes from experience. It comes from, you know, maybe there's a song that you really like that starts out with a guitar and just
that
the
makes
guitar,
sense.
and you're like,
Oh, yeah,
that's a great guitar.
definitely.
Well, you could
It
reference
seems like,
that,
I mean, everything is one
and
big
then hear.
experience. Like, that's what I'm
Well,
getting
mine
at.
sounds
You know what I'm
like that,
saying?
but
Like,
it's too
there
bloated.
seems to
Okay,
be
we'll shelf that.
no
then,
like
you know?
clear
use
cut.
it,
Like obviously there are
geared
things, there are
towards
definitions that need,
creating
you know,
space
there
for other.
scientific facts.
No,
that one
no,
would want
actually,
to
it's
know.
it's
You know
more
what I mean?
to
But, like,
present the idealized balance of that instrument.
Okay.
So it's not. I actually think it's very problematic to approach mixing from the standpoint of trying to correct issues in your arrangement
That's what
with
everybody.
the
I mean,
EQ.
I'm
In other
saying,
words,
like, even Brian.
if
I'm
you
like,
shouldn't have
you guys
arranged
agree, right?
a song to have like two bass instruments, if you shouldn't have done that, the solution is still not going to be to fix it with an EQ by boosting the one that you want. You know what I mean? Or doing some weird thing like that. The best thing is not to have recorded it in the first place because it's two things with competing purposes. You know, so the best thing is just in your arrangement, don't do that.
You know, and this is the
But
guy who even founded
when it comes to
right?
a properly
So
thought out set of things that all add up to a final great perfect ensemble,
you know what I'm saying? And I'm just like, but
you know,
when
you have that bass
so
and you just
many
use that
options.
acoustic
There's so
guitar, for
many
instance,
different
and
things that you can
you just
do.
think like,
It
wow,
can
it
be
sounds
really,
great,
really
but I can
overwhelming.
hear it's just a little too bassy.
That
You just got more bass than it needs.
sort of this method
And that's a matter of taste, and it's taste, but it's also much more practical. I like really thinking about all this mixing stuff that we've done until now is like 90% practical. The 10% creative that we've done so far is that parallel stuff, where we're really like sloshing it, making it pump and doing it in parallel. And then what we're about to do right now is very creative, where we do the ambient effects. That's where I get. That's where I'm like, okay, up until now we could seem like very fuddy-duddy, boring mixers. Like we're not creative at all. We're just trying to like scientifically fix problems. Well, now what we're going to dive into is like, oh yeah, you call me not creative? This is seriously creative.
I think there's as much to be learned.
We have our center
finishing something
material,
and being
because there's a lot of
somewhat
there's gonna be a lot of
disappointed as
overlap
there
in
is
the
to
low
just like
mids.
viewing the thing.
You know, when you talk about things have naturally have
Yeah,
a
exactly.
space,
We
like
sell a product.
not using the synth bass and the
Right.
live bass because of being right in the same. And I know we're
Even if it's
limiting
not your
some of
favorite
that
thing,
by
your client
what
likes
we
it.
choose to put
That's
center.
all
Yeah, it's fine,
That's
yeah.
all that matters. You know,
Right, center
left
versus
and
sides, right.
But is that enough for the overlap that you have in the low mids?
It is.
Because
In my
there's,
opinion, it is.
because it's there.
If they're in different channels, then that's one sort of slight kind of like epiphany for me over the last
So
couple
you,
years.
you're gonna have a certain
it's a
decibel level
non-
that you're gonna try
it's
and
a
stick to.
non-issue
Is this- 'cause
if the one
essentially
instrument
you're
is the
getting
center
this
channel
ready
instrument and the
so
other
you get
is a
sent
side
to
channel
somebody to be
instrument.
mastered.
It's a non-issue. That's why, like, when people in my classes will say, like,
they call it dB full
you know,
scale, which
the
just
guitars
means
are like
this
fighting the
meter.
vocal. Say, no, they're not.
-6.
Because the guitars are in the
And
side
it's
channel and the
slightly
vocals in the center
arbitrary
channel. I don't care if they have the
because
same
mastering
frequencies.
engineers always turn it down.
Yeah,
It's
panning.
not clipping.
Like, in other words, there's a center channel and there's a side channel. And,
Like, it's just,
and if
it's honestly kind of like
those channels
funny
are
as fuck,
powerful
because
enough
people
in
are
their
like, I've
in
heard
their
people like, you're
what
gonna
they
do all
accomplish for a
this, you
mix,
wanna do
that-
as much as you can.
I mean, that's why,
but
like,
then it gets
you know,
sent to the
today people
mastering
mix
engineer,
vocals
and he's
very
like,
far
I don't like
forward,
that.
very big and
Yeah,
up front,
you
very
know what I'm saying?
disembodied.
So it's like,
You listen to like Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, like you listen to like
page,
Damn the
because while
Torpedoes
I'm,
or something like that.
talking to you guys,
They didn't
or
record
you guys are
and mix
talking, I'm
vocals
asking
like that.
questions.
And yet
So I
everybody
asked
in America
somebody,
knows
I
every
think I
word
asked
to
Facebook,
Refugee.
I
You know what I
said,
mean? And all that
how
kind
do
of
you
stuff.
get
That's because
commercial loudness
a
in
really
your beats?
smart
You know what
mixer
I mean? So I think
knew
we all
how
kind
to
of developed
present
ear
these
for
things.
what
And what is
a
one of the
record should
tools?
sound like.
The side channel versus the center channel. You know?
So
Shelly Yakis, when they're
one
mixing
person
that
told
record,
me,
they can
he
know, like,
said
well, the vocal's
need a
here.
good
It's a
static
good level for a
mix,
vocal.
need a
Guitars are over
EQ
there,
to
so
make space.
they,
Mixing
you know, they
in
need to
mono
be
is key.
put
So you mix
within a certain
everything-
range of
obviously
each
you
other.
don't mix
So-
everything
But don't kid
I don't-
yourself and think
Yeah,
there's
I used to
something
think
wrong with
that
these
was
guitars
important.
that it's
Yeah.
affecting this vocal because
I think
if
you
it's
should
well
try
engineered
it.
and it's well
Right.
arranged,
I think when people say
They're
that, they
free and
don't
clear of
realize
each
that
other.
that's just more of a thought
I
experiment.
think that's
Mhm.
my
I did
little.
it for a little while.
That's at
in
least the
college,
position I'm
and I learned
telling
from it, and I,
myself
like, sort of just
to,
carry
like,
those things that I've learned
dive
from
into
it
and explore.
with me.
I was
And
thinking
not
of
just
writing
mix it in stereo.
like a
Mhm.
thing
But
about it in
they
the
are
coming year.
correct. That
But
mixing
just
mono can be important.
that whole thing of like, well
I
then
would
what?
just
How do
say
you
that
choose
the
what can be in
considerations
those
you
same
get from
channels?
mixing in mono are
It
key.
can't be in the same
Mixing in
channel.
mono
They can.
is not key.
Mhm.
Does that make
You
sense?
first say,
Um,
is this an instrument? Is this
yeah,
a
but they are right
percussive
about
instrument or a
everything else,
melodic
like carving
instrument?
out, making space.
If it's a
Right.
percussive and a
good
melodic
mix.
can share
I would
frequency
say
range.
usually when I'm at
but
home,
no melodic
or
and
in
melodic.
the studio,
Treat it that way on the
I
side
mix
channels
into a
as well.
limiter while
What do you
going.
mean?
Mhm.
And that
'cause
limiter is
eventually you're gonna have
pulling it up
melodic
to commercial loudness,
Right.
basically.
Inside
And that lets me
chaining
hear,
what?
like,
in the,
oh,
in
this is what it's
the
gonna sound
in
like
left
when
or
it's
right
like slammed.
Oh.
that are both melodic.
Which is the inevitability.
You just
Mm.
at that
Yeah,
point you
definitely,
Usually
it's
that
the same
means
thing,
like
yeah.
hear extra resonances.
Well,
like hear
from
other
our
things.
arrangement
frequency
standpoint,
When you're done, you're
from our
gonna
arrangement
put
standpoint, the
a
strongest
limiter if it's not
presentation of,
already on your
of an
master.
arrangement
Yeah, what I'll
is
do
one
is
that does
I
not
put a
have
limiter
competing
on
melodic
for
instruments.
So you might move
band
something
members to, like,
from right
listen
to
to it.
left.
And
Yep.
I say this
if
is like
they're
faux
too
mastering.
close.
Absolutely,
to
will.
see
Often
master
rise
ball.
Yeah.
to-
And no,
And
and again, like
I
we would
print
choose
another
to
one
record it in the first
where it
place.
doesn't have any of that limiting on it.
When we
whatsoever.
actually record, we didn't really
And
talk
that's
about
what
this
gets sent to
yesterday, but
mastering.
when we make a new
Gotcha.
track
But I
when we're
usually do
recording,
have an EQ and a compressor on the whole mix.
if it's again we kick,
I-
snare,
it'll go
bass, and
EQ,
vocal. Those are the only things that pan up the
compressor,
center.
maybe
When we
like
make a new track
tape
because we're gonna do a
machine,
guitar,
print to the tape
pan it
machine or
hard
tape
right.
machine
Record the guitar over there.
and then a
And what does that do?
And I'll send
It
up
shows
to
you a big blank space that
tape
you got to
machine
fill in
to
over here.
mastering. I never send
Then you make that next track.
Gotcha.
Pan it hard
they're
left,
way better at it.
and you're gonna
Gotcha.
create
And they're
a
way
track
nicer.
that balances that guitar you just made.
So,
As opposed to just
I'm
being
kind of
like,
thinking as
I'm
you're
doing a
speaking
guitar,
to me, I'm
and
thinking
I'll figure out where
about
that goes later.
what my
If you
process
build
is going to look like.
your song
Traditionally,
using
what I'm
the
gonna do,
panning
I'm probably
structure
gonna
and
make a
the
beat at
the
home,
assignment structure as you
mix
do it,
at
by the time you're
home.
done, you're like,
But now, recently,
Now I
I'm
just gotta
starting to get to
tighten it
connect
up.
with people
Does that
who are
get you
like,
in trouble?
hey, I'll do this for you for
Not
free.
that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because they're trying to build a
Sometimes,
portfolio,
yeah.
blah, 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 blah.
Like double-
So that may be a
double
route that I go.
an acoustic
But a lot of
track.
times, I'm just trying to get to the studio
Take
as
that
quickly as possible.
Hard rate, hard left,
You know what I
absolutely,
mean? And
yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
depending
Okay.
upon the type
Good or
of
bad?
record,
it's good
Say
if it
absolutely.
leaves the
Um,
space, like, so.
I don't know. I'm
we-
trying to
we
think. I'm just
often-
thinking of
well,
what
the
steps
one thing you'll hear
I
when
can
we're recording,
skip,
one thing you'll hear
or
us say
in
a
other
lot
words,
is, okay, now let's
what
double
I want to
that.
say say,
Well, the reason we double
what
thing is
can I?
usually not
I
necessarily
know. I guess I'm gonna
using,
just say like that.
but in
Which
case
steps
later
can I
we need a
skip? Which steps
balancing
can I take
factor,
care of on my own?
nothing
If I don't
balances the
have
thing
the
better.
I don't have
That guitar,
there's some
mental and hard right,
stuff in my life.
mixers,
nothing is gonna
masters,
balance
you know,
that guitar
they charge you a lot.
on the
You know
left
what I'm
better
saying?
than
So,
a double.
I missed, like,
I
You
guess
know,
I'm just trying to
we-
be
if we
as
record something that we can throw out that
self-sufficient
double and
as
do something else
possible.
instead, I
You
like
know what
that
I mean?
better.
Until I can
Even if
work
they're
my
a little
way up
bit,
to where
like, hobbly,
I can go spend,
you
you
know,
know, a couple $1,000,
but
$500, whatever.
yeah,
you
so
know what I
we'll
mean?
often record those doubles
I would say
and then not
answer
use
of
them.
tweet
I've got a
is
perfect
unfortunate
issue with one of my
consequence.
songs. I really love
So,
the
what I
quality
can say
of
is
recording I got.
you're
I
not
didn't do it here. I did it like in my basement. So like,
I think we listened to some of your stuff last night.
practice
I think so. right? They were. I think they were
just
playing
like,
it. Was it?
or, I mean, like even reading like
Maybe.
the,
Yeah. Maybe.
there were a lot of
Maybe
like
not.
mixing like
I don't know.
Yeah.
Perhaps, but I've got
reading
an example of this. Guitars, pen, right and left. They're not the same track, but I did the same guitar part, right and left. And then my vocal, I do this one thing in particular where it's like, and when I do that drop, there's like this like sheen in that drop. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
a lot of what
like outside of that, I'm pretty happy with it, but that like ruins the whole thing. Like when you hear that, you're like, oh, this actually.
You're explaining it.
And I don't know what to do about it. I just like it's in the high frequency.
Because even
I
what
don't know
you're
why
doing now,
it
like
fought
I
that.
said,
I
I
mean,
use FL
it's not
Studio,
necessarily
but
the same
I can understand
frequencies as the guitars that are happening
I
at
get
the same time.
It could be. Does it happen in other listening environments?
You know, Pro Tools EQ.
Okay.
I'm like, okay, he's
Yeah.
EQing, he's gonna
But
sing
only when
out
it's
what he
loud,
doesn't
really.
need.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I can-
all
Yeah,
right, so now he's
I know
do
of a
whatever
million
to
times in my
the
life
bus.
where I've
Like I knew I could
finally just
understand
made
it,
a
so that made me
decision,
feel
like,
good because
I'm not
yesterday
gonna obsess about
was a
that.
different, was a
Because, like,
completely different
yeah, like, if you
round.
can learn to do
Because
that, I've had to do
never
that.
So actually,
Hi-hats.
seen that, so but it was cool
One
to
day I
see.
woke up and I was
It
like,
was cool to see because I
I'm no
never,
longer
you know
thinking
what I'm
about
saying?
that.
I've
Because
never
it's
worked on
really,
it.
seemingly, the more
Other
I
than
think about it,
playing
the
in
more
a
I
band,
can't do
I've
it
never
without
seen
it.
a studio like
And
built from scratch. You know
I
what
love
I'm saying?
And
So
the more
that
I
was
start
pretty
making
cool.
these like pronouncements about hi-hats being
I'm just
less
trying to
than
think
notes.
because I know you
You
got.
know. So are we? Let me see if we're all set up for this. Are we all set up?
They put it out there. I think we just need to
Kind of like
set up the mic.
10,000-foot view of the project and be able to see where it goes. He's really good at like avoid the that's why I'm like having this like little.
Also, as a separate note regarding like trap and hip hop, I think the one thing that no one's doing is everyone's
more about
just
the
slamming the
technical
shit
aspects
out
of
of it.
things.
I think bringing dynamics back to that shit would be
Using it.
But see, I gotta have an understanding. I have to have an
At the end of the day,
understanding of
like,
what
I'm
dynamics are. Like I actually, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
sure.
The right music.
can you give me a quick answer?
Yeah,
The
quiet,
recording
loud.
process is very fun.
Oh, okay.
Like, I enjoy the
Verses
creative
are
sides
quiet,
of it, and, like,
choruses are
adding
loud.
effects and doing
Mhm.
interesting things you can.
Massive.
Oh, so
do in
just,
live
just,
setting.
oh, duh, I know what dynamics are. But
exactly,
I
yeah.
overthink stuff sometimes.
That's
I
fine.
want to
I
know
don't
how to do it.
Also,
right.
everyone uses these words interchangeably to mean like whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever they want.
You know,
Whatever
stand
point
by,
they want to make, they
Right.
use a word like
editing, different
Right,
or just
yeah.
flashes,
Yeah.
like, I wanna
So
But-
like, just you're talking about just, I mean, because
So when I
that's
did
what
my
I'm
record,
really trying to hone in on. Because
I
I
was
see
kind of
the
both
need.
in the artist
There's
chair
a
and
there's
the
a need
producer.
in hip hop. You know what I
like-
mean? And like,
I performed
I
the
just
entire
feel
album,
like
I also
it's just
produced
all
the entire album
it's
too.
all the same.
So,
You know what I mean? A lot of these guys are glorifying, you know, drug use and like I said, I work at a school, so
Right.
but that created like a really
I'm seeing
It's no
the,
good.
you know,
It's no good.
I'm seeing.
I think
what's
we
happening
gotta-
to that.
So I think we gotta get
there's a lot
going.
of like
I'm ready to send if it's.
I think.
yeah, myself is a good way to put it.
So we wanna do the
Put
vocal
myself
part,
in an
right?
interesting headspace for sure.
Maybe what I'll do is I'll take everybody out there and you can
Yeah, sure.
man it from up here because I think they have to have the pedals right there. So yeah, why don't we go and do this? Check this out.
I'm gonna say.
So what are you going to do? I mean,
So we're about to send the vocal out through
Right.
pedals into a guitar amp for the reverb.
through pedals.
Mhm.
You're gonna.
So a lot of times when we mix, we
Okay.
don't actually use plugins, we use guitar pedals.
Really?
It's way more interesting, yeah.
5 and 6 is left, right,
Okay.
and 17 is the send. Is the send to the transmitter.
17 is the sound. What do you mean by that? You said 5 and 6 from the live room, right?
My session just canceled.
Oh, nice.
Seriously. So 5 and 6 are the mics coming back.
Okay, I got that.
Okay.
And then I'm sending out to this interface, right?
Yep, and it's
Okay, so
already, I've already got it.
Oh, you did
Out
it
to
already.
17.
Oh, what was this thing you handed me?
This is whatever the feed is.
Really? Okay, so I'm sending out this.
Right. So
Into
wherever
this.
your audio feed is, you're going input into that.
Oh, so this is just already handled out in the live room, right?
Yeah,
I don't need
yeah.
to deal with this.
Yep.
Could you hit play? Yep, yep.
I'm a banker over there.
Okay. Anya VanRose.
Anya VanRose. Anya VanRose.
That's your last name?
My last name's Ajenovich.
So I'm feeding out there.
Rose is my middle name.
How'd you get Van?
I just made it up.
I like it.
It works.
You wrote a great song.
Thank you. And I think everyone got a t-shirt, but I'll leave the rest of them up here.
Thank you.
Oh yeah. I want one too though.
Yes.
I'm gonna correct you that I didn't get a t-shirt.
You didn't? Well, what size do you wear, brother?
Medium-ish. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.